Before we start off today's video, if you guys would like to join my Discord server, link will be in the description and it will also be in the pinned comment. Now I have just improved the server somewhat. Once again, I have introduced a gaming section, so I have listed a bunch of games within the menu, and if you want to talk about games, well then feel free to do so. Now, if you do join, then obviously it's great for me because it helps the server grow, which is part 1, and B, you join my server, which is just great. So frankly, you join my server, which is good for you, you should have a fun time, and it's great for me because it helps the server grow. So frankly, it's a win for you, win for me. But either way, let's get right into the review. What's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is the Volkswagen Lupo GTI. Now, forgetting GTI for 1 second, what is a Lupo, I hear you asking? Okay, A, I can't hear you, and B, you're probably not asking that. But this is my review, and well, you're gonna do as you're told, alright? My review, I'm the boss. I'm just kidding if you can't tell, but anyway, let's just have a quick walk around of the tiny city hatchbacks. So, this is the ordinary Volkswagen Lupo, and it's basically Volkswagen's first tiny little city car, excluding the original Volkswagen Golf and the smaller Polos. Now this car was really small, and you could even get a stay-out version if you wanted to. And of course there was the GTI version to go with as well. Next came the Volkswagen Fox. Now one thing to mention about this car is it never had a GTI version like the Lupo, and that is because the Fox is technically a Brazilian car in the Brazilian market, and it came over here being sold, etc, etc. The car is basically just a Volkswagen Polo because it's Volkswagen Polo underpinnings, made in Brazil, shipped over here, so no GTI version. But after that came the Volkswagen Up. Now 2 things to mention about the Up. A, it did have a GTI version like the Lupo, and B, unlike the Lupo and unlike the Fox, it also came in a 5-door, which is obviously more practical. So frankly, this puts the Volkswagen Up 5-door in spades and leaps ahead of the Lupo and Fox when it comes to practicality. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the Up, and no, not the film. But anyway, let's get right into the review. So, when it does come to the exterior, now we have seen the front of the original Lupo, and frankly that is not much to say, it's kind of unmemorable. Something I will say is, you'll see 2 lights on either side. Now the smaller ones next to the grille, they're obviously bigger than the ones on the standard Lupo. The ones on the standard Lupo just looks like spots on a teenager's face. This looks a lot better. Obviously the grille has been changed to make it look a lot sportier. The grille has also been made a lot bigger, or the intake I should say, to let more air in within the bigger and more powerful engine. Obviously bumper has been changed to make it more sporty looking as well. You obviously got the GTI badge as well, that also adds to some flair. When it comes to the side profile, overall the car looks fine. The only detail I really have a problem with is the rear. The rear bumper does look a bit squashed, like someone's already punched or smashed into it already, like the Hulk. It just looks squashed, that's really all there is to it. Plus the aerial does look a little big, I have to say, but I'm not really fussed about the aerial, it's the squashness I'm worried about. And you can tell from the rear as well, it just looks like it's so squashed. I do think it could have been let out a bit more. I'm not a designer, I don't know how it works, just not look so squashed. Now of course there are some good things about the rear of this. A, you got the GTI badge, which obviously adds flair once again, and you get 2 big central exhausts. Those are cool, no doubt about that, that is awesome, they look really cool. Hands up to the designer who said, let's put the exhaust right in the middle. I want to give you a high five, that looks really cool, I really love that. When it comes to the interior, well frankly it's just classic 2000s 90s Volkswagen really. Just plain cheap black grey plastic everywhere. Now that's point 1. Point 2 is that if you look, the climate control buttons are very very low down and looks like they're hidden underneath the rest of the dashboard. Frankly, that's just shocking. You have to look so far down to find them. That is awful. And also, the gauge cluster is very busy. So you got your rev counter and your speedometer, which is obviously important and necessary. You got your fuel gauge, which is obviously necessary. You've also got your engine temperature, which in some cars isn't necessary, but in some cars is, which is fine. But it's got a clock in it as well, and that's at the center, at the top. I don't think this car needs a clock right there. That clock just makes it look too busy. And because that clock is there, the fuel gauge and the temperature gauge have been shoved right under the rev counter. Now if they put the fuel and the engine temperature where the clock would be, like it is in say a Peugeot 207, then frankly it wouldn't look so squashed. And frankly you can just put, I don't know, a digital clock underneath the rev counter somewhere and it'd be fine. But either way, that's really all 3 points to it. It's not the best interior, to be honest. When it does come to performance though, it does pick up. So, it has a 1.6 litre inline 4-cylinder which is naturally aspirated. It has 123 horsepower, 123, which is so satisfying for OCD people like myself. But anyway, 112 pound-feet of torque, and of course the car is front-wheel drive. Now it does weigh around 975 kilograms, but I have seen other articles that said it was over 1,000 kilograms. Frankly, either way, it's a light car. It's not heavy, and that's obviously good for handling and economy, of course, and of course the performance as well, forgot to mention. Gearbox, it did come with a 5-speed manual in the first year, and then a year after it did come with a 6-speed manual. Now that obviously improves performance and it improves economy, so frankly the lightness and the gearbox is setting up to be quite a decent economical car. 0 to 60 is 8.2 seconds, although I have seen articles that some say like 9 seconds, 7.7 seconds, but we'll stick with 8.2. And the top speed is 127 miles an hour. Now cars with around 120-ish horsepower like this, the Ford Fiesta 1 litre with 120 horsepower, the Mark 7 version for all I know, the Mercedes A180 with 120 horsepower, all of those have a top speed of around between 120 and 130 miles an hour. So that's obviously that. When it comes to the practicality, we're dropping back down the mountain again. So the boot is only 130 litres big, and that frankly is titchy, it's useless. Now, I know what you're thinking, it's to be expected in a car of this size, and yes, I know, I'm aware, this is what you expect from a car of this size, but it's still not that useful. A few shopping bags and frankly that's all you're going to be dealing with. And obviously because it is obviously a very short wheelbase, very short, and the car is just short altogether, legroom is well tight and headroom is also well tight. Kids may just about bear it, but otherwise that's it. Please do not put any adults in the back. I beg of you, please. Just don't. I even read an article who said that a guy was 6'4". He didn't even fit. So if that isn't enough persuasion, I don't know what is. But anyway, when it does come to the handling, we're going back up the mountain again. Yippee, we're like a roller coaster of mountains here. So, a few things to mention. So the springs and the dampers have been upgraded. The ride height has been lowered by 20mm, which is 2 centimeters. The doors, the bonnet and the front wings have been made of aluminium instead of steel like they are on the normal Lupo, so that obviously improves the weight. As a result, the car is very nippy around town, no doubt. Because it's so small and so light, it is like a go-kart, like I mentioned with the Toyota Yaris T-Sport. Going through the corners, it is very composed. Because it is lightweight, body roll isn't much because there's not much weight to go onto the suspension. It's just really fun, there's plenty of grip as well. Absolutely fun. Front wheel drive, literally not much understeer despite that. So frankly, it's great. Obviously if you push it to its ultimate limits, you might see some. But otherwise, handling is just great. Grips like, I don't know, like Velcro shoes. Let's put it that way. Is there anything else worth noting? Well, in the same way that the Up GTI is kind of considered like the original Golf GTI, as if like, because you know, Jeremy Clarkson said that on Top Gear one time. Well, I see no reason why the Lupo can't be the Golf GTI of the early noughties, and the Up GTI being one of the 10s and 20s, if that's the right thing to say. But either way, this frankly is light, it's small, and it's got a decent amount of power. This is basically the Golf GTI of the early noughties. So, there you go. Now, what is the verdict? And it's quite a lot on each of them, frankly, but a lot of it is just long sentences. So the pros are, the exterior looks really good, the sportiness just looks so cool, that exhaust pipe is just awesome, it handles well, it's quite nippy around town, it is decently fast. The fact that it did come with a 6-speed manual is great, especially on this tiny machine, so lightness and 6-speed. Despite being a bigger engine, you know, you're still going to get decent performance, and it's obviously better for engaging with the car, because it's another time to change up and down. But anyway, the cons are, the legroom and headroom are tight, but that, as we well know, is to be expected. The rear does look squashed. That is probably my own personal thing. I'm probably the only person who sees it. Other people probably don't see it at all. The interior is just classic 90s, 2000s, plain plastic VW. Just ugh. The gauge cluster is very busy. The climate control buttons are just hidden. And I mean they're hidden down like anything. Like literally, like a fat guy trying to look down at his like Peter Griffin. But anyway, that concludes the review of the Volkswagen Lupo. If you would like to check out my reaction channel.
Types of Dyson spheres. Type 1 is to build a ring of orbits.
Those are bloody lampshades, not bloody Dyson spheres.
Wirelessly transfer the energy back to the home planet. A Type 2 is to build a bubble of satellites around the
That's
star.
a golf ball. That's a golf ball now.
Of the light, but not all of it. And a Type 3 is to completely swallow the star with a solid shell of matter.
That's a disco ball.
100% of the energy and light that the star produces.
Then I will leave a link to that in the description below. Now normally I blur a car and I say, hey, you guys, guess in the comments. Now, a lot of you don't do it, pretty much everyone doesn't do it, but either way. Because next week is my birthday, on which I turn 20. There's gonna be a 20th birthday special, which is my dream car on Wednesday, because that is when my birthday is. And he'll also get one on Thursday, because we always do one on Thursday, don't we? So Wednesday will be my dream car, and Thursday will also be a car from the same manufacturer, so you'll get 2 videos on that week. But anyway, that concludes that bit. But if you do want to leave a comment suggesting a car you want reviewed, then let me know in the comments and I will happily oblige and do it within X amount of time. But anyway, that is it, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday, not Thursday, for my birthday video. Peace.